couple of seconds, analyze for me the BP. Discuss for me correction of BP. What should interest rate do? Don't take too long. Look at your diagram. Mark out the income and interest rate you need to. So all these are simple diagrams, must be drawn in ink, not in pencil. So interest rates drop lower than I star 1. Income increases. Remember, horizontal BP, F is infinity. So you should gather the BP is a deficit. Right? The BP is a deficit, and not only that, the size was exactly the capital account, right, deficit. Because this is massive. So this account is insignificant. The account is not zero, it's just very small that you don't even consider. So knowing who is the cause and the size of the BP, so for BP to be zero, interest rate must go up and must go back exactly to I1 because that is the world interest rate. So you either go back to point E1 or you go to, let's call this F. So you can see, I begin with the end in mind. I know no matter what happens, fixed or flexible exchange rate, there's only 2 points I need, E1 or F. Right? So if you draw a large diagram, you see it, and it actually guides you. Right? You dictate the diagram, not the diagram dictate you. Right? So in this case, BP is a deficit, the currency weakens. Okay, so again, let's divide this into 2. Write it out in brief, which is quite hard for you, but it's my practice to just write it out so that I show you what are the basic skills to analyze. But in exam, you must write like that. You cannot even put numbering, you must write the whole chunk in a paragraph. Okay, so BP was a deficit, currency weakened in nominal and real terms. That is, there was an increase in supply of LC, local currency, right? Because funds flow out of the country. How do you send money out? You must take out your own currency first. So in the forex or in the market, there was an increase in supply of your local currency. So government has to meet it, right? So government therefore must increase the demand of LC so that you can maintain the exchange rate. You don't want the E to go down, so you must push it back. So you must increase the demand, that is government. Demand for your currency means government buy local currency. So as a result, money supply drops because you buy means you take it out. And LM will start to shift up. Interest rates will start to go up and must go back to I star 1. So could you see? This is what I mentioned. After some time, you will get used to the fixed exchange rate. And you will get used to the momentum of shifting LM. It comes with practice, not memorizing. Right? So all the concepts you build up from topic 5 are never wasted. That's why when I do topic 5, I do it so slow, I teach you slope and intercept. I keep asking you to do derivation and see for yourself. Then you will always know where the curve will shift. You don't memorize a single thing. So look at your diagram. You are at E2. You want to shift your LM upwards. So you know this is due to fixed exchange rate. So you can put it in if you want to, right? So put a arrow. This is due to, but it gets a little bit messy in the diagram. So if your diagram is too small, then better to write in this kind of words. So what do you see? Interest rates starts to pick up, income starts to drop. And you will end up exactly one of the points you expected, E1. Right, so in this case, you will say you will reach point E1. So it's a very directed analysis. A clear, well-illustrated diagram with very clear analysis will guide you. So what is examiner marking? You know he's not marking E1, he's looking at this part. Whether you know government buy or sell, and you talk about LM shifting. Even though eventually you forgot to write E1, you merely say LM shift up, you will still pass, he won't fail you. You must know he is marking concept, he's not marking the diagram. Right? But in this case, it's very clear. There's nothing to draw. The LM that shifted down, shift back. Because of government's purchase of the local currency. Okay? So you can't memorize the thing. You really must study the size of BP, the correction of BP, and the exchange rate. Okay? So now let's do flexible exchange rate. Okay? So repeat again. You are still at E2. BP was the deficit. Your currency weakened in nominal and real terms. Okay, so analyze for me what happens to your NX. Where is your IS? What happens to interest rate? And which point do you go to? Okay, so NX in this case should be positive. So if you're not sure, your purchasing power went down, import goes down, right? You can't afford foreign goods anymore. But foreigners, they enjoy their purchasing power, they buy our goods. So X goes up, M goes down, NX now positive, IS will shift to the right. Okay, so go to the diagram. At E2, you're ready to shift the IS. Right? So this is due to flexible exchange rate. And you see, right? So don't draw yet. Don't always be in a hurry to put in the curve. Make it clear that you know the BP is being adjusted. So the BP was a deficit, but when you start to shift IS rightwards, interest rate picks up. This is what you wanted. And income picks up. But this is insignificant, so you don't have to worry. It will not worsen the BP. Right? The BP is corrected here. So you know, as expected, the IS must shift until interest rate goes back to I star 1. And therefore, interest rate will increase until I star 1 at point F. That's final equilibrium. Go to the diagram, draw the line, and put down the income. 1. So if you begin with the N in mind, you know you can either go with E1 or F. You are not wrong. You will not be hanging somewhere unknown. You won't at all. So because you jolly have displayed what you understood from the BP. What was the BP size, the culprit, the correction. Focus is always BP, not ISLM. ISLM focus is in topic 5, not topic 6. Alright, so in this case, let's make a comparison. We have E1 to E2, E2 to F, or E2 back to E1. Okay, so let's write a summary of important things. Okay, we were looking at expansionary monetary policy. This is very famous for US, right? Quantitative easing is equivalent to expansionary monetary policy. We were looking at horizontal BP. Okay, so we evaluate again. If you are in closed economy, okay, you will reach E2, income Y2. Okay, so closed economy should not be an issue. We just shift the curve. This is what we did in topic 5. It's always a reference point for us. Okay, but what we want to focus is if you are in an open economy, then we divide it into 2. If you are at flexible exchange rate, right, you are at point F. Income is Y3, which is the largest. Okay, but if you are using fixed exchange rate, we went back to point E1. If you recall, income is the smallest. So that tells us this is like US economy. So BP may not be horizontal, but could be very flat because funds can easily flow in and out. She used a lot of expansionary monetary policy. So being an open economy with easy flow of funds, alright, we do see her using flexible exchange rate. In this case, alright, given the normal ISLM, your output will be the largest at Y3. Okay, alright. So in this case, you could see the discussion of your monetary policy. It will look similar to fiscal policy. You put the 2 diagrams side by side. They will look very alike one. So there's no way we memorize, but we go through the systematic approach. Alright, okay, and look at under different exchange rate, where was your final conclusion? Right? There is no conclusion that fixed exchange rate always work. There is no conclusion. It all depends on your policies. And the correction was purely through interest rate. So this 2 analysis is the easiest. You have done it in year 1 economics. We don't do the actual measurement at all. We merely do the overall conclusion on income, and then we compare 3 kinds, right, of outcome. Alright, in fact, monetary policy, very useful to discuss US. In this case, alright, flexible exchange rate is the most ideal. Compared to fixed exchange rate, okay, nothing happens. Okay, so we go for a break here. Let's come back at 1:40. Any question, you come forward. And then we will look at now the more realistic cases, upward sloping BP. Okay, so I'll see you back here in 15 minutes.